I talked a little bit about the Sacred Heart, the heart chambers that we encounter, the barriers and blocks to the heart, the way the heart opens and closes without us perhaps knowing. So when a heart opens and closes, the world opens and closes, opens and closes. It's a constant expansion and contraction, right? And the thing is, this can get quite excruciating, especially if the heart is bolted shut for a long time. And it's like, well, you know, life feels more difficult. Life doesn't feel like it's flowing. It's really hard to experience true inner joy and inner peace and to really feel happy with yourself when the heart is really closed. So recognizing that the journey of life is a journey of opening and closing, but we go deeper in the opening and closing. And we're here to understand how we close our hearts, why we're closing. Can we open again? Does it feel safe for us to just open again? What's getting in the way of this, right? So I do this work. The way I've learned how to do heart alchemy is by doing it with myself, for myself, right? This is not a theoretical space. This is literally lived experience. And you get into certain depths where it becomes, you have no idea why your heart is closing, and you can feel it closing, and it's like then you have to search for the reason, right? So I've always been one of those people where I want to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not good enough for me to go, oh, my heart's closing, oh well. Because for me, I've recognized and I've experienced how shitty life can be when my heart is closed, right? So I'm like, okay, I don't ever want to be feeling like that. I don't ever want the world to reflect that back at me. So what do? I have to keep my heart open. How do I keep my heart open? I find everything that shuts it down. I seek everything that shuts it down. Always, all the time, in all the depths, right? Because we never stop doing this work. Yeah, you're never arriving, because the heart is infinite light. So this is it's going to be a really beautiful night. I encourage you to come. If you've got a partner and they live in the same house and they want to come and experience this, please come and do this together. For me, there's nothing more beautiful than seeing or imagining you guys lying together, experiencing it together, right? It's not, when you are with a partner, being in the same heart resonance is what creates connection, right? And often people, after a long time of being together, are connecting through duty, are connecting through the mundane 3D. Okay, well, we share the bills and we share the kids, so, you know, we help each other out day to day, and this is life, and this is relationship, right? And you know what? That might be how it feels, but you can attune your hearts to a deeper level of connection, and you will essentially reap the rewards of that in your relationship, right? If the heart oh, wow, these birds just came flying. If the heart resonates, if the heart resonance is different and there's a really big disconnection between the frequencies of your heart, you will just feel that as disconnection, right? So it takes two or three. If you're in a threesome, triple, do they call it that? So you all have to try to seek whatever is getting in the way of the heart resonance, yeah? To create a deeper connection, a deeper resonant bond. Otherwise, all you do is you feel the gap. And you keep feeling the gap. And often the gap is the trauma, right? Because you've felt that your whole life, so it feels familiar. So this is what love is to you. Love is the gap. Love is the disconnection. Love is the constantly wanting something different that he or she is never going to give you, but feeling like, well, this is it. This is life. This is love. This is what I've always known. This is what my parents had. And that's your relationship, right? So if I can do my bit by inviting you and your partner into the same space to actually at least have a new experience, it will be very, it will be my honor to do that. Especially if it leads to a deeper resonance, right? So today I wanted to talk a little bit about dissociation. And I've talked before about organ dissociation. And I think it's really an important topic. Why is it an important topic? Over the time that I've been working with women in particular, I've just noticed this really pervading sense of dissociation that seems to be very common these days, right? Now, what is dissociation and how is it different from disconnection? Energetically, it's a very different quality. Disconnection is everything is there in the same plane and dimension, but it doesn't have there isn't a strong self-awareness. There isn't a strong awareness of it. There is some level of connection, but it's just not, it could be strengthened. So you'll feel that like, oh, okay, there could be a strengthening here. There is already, the bridge is there, but it's perhaps not being used, right? So it's like having a muscle that's weak. Training it will be supportive, but it's still there. Dissociation is when there isn't anything there. So you're looking, you're there, you're like, oh, there isn't. Energetically, it just feels like empty space. So it will either feel like empty space or it will be grayed out, right? Very light, gone. And the most common reason for dissociation is trauma. So recognizing that at some level, everyone has experienced trauma, and the journey to embodiment, to being very deeply safe within your own body and connected, is a journey of healing trauma. So if you are traumatized and have experienced trauma, which is pretty much the whole world, and you have never healed, there will be a level of disconnection. Or if you've had a very extreme trauma, such as anything that's really affected your body and your heart in this life, you will experience and have some level of dissociation. And this can be healed. But the first step to healing it is to be in a trauma-based, body-based therapy with a therapist that can work with dissociation, right? And then you can go on a journey of healing that. So how do you know if you're dissociated? Generally, there are certain characteristics, but there's no hard and fast rule. And a lot of people are living in this world looking like they're functioning perfectly well and perhaps also pretty successful, but they are dissociated from their own bodies, sometimes in their entirety, and they don't know, right? Because the world has become a very cerebral place to live in and to be in, rather than a somatic place to be in, rather than a feeling place. So the first characteristic that you're experiencing dissociation rather than disconnection is often lack of clarity of what you're feeling. So it isn't just you're not feeling anything, but it's like you have no idea about what you're feeling or not feeling. It's like a total blank, right? So you can imagine that a person who's in that place is wondering, what do I feel? What should I feel? Oh, maybe I'll just copy what people around me are doing. Maybe I'll just mirror back whoever's around me, right? Because the level of dissociation is so deep that they don't actually know how to, or what they're feeling, how to feel what they're feeling. It's just a blank, right? So this can get people in quite difficult situations relationally, as they try to seek themselves by feeling other people. Yeah. Now, it's really interesting to understand like where the empath comes into this, right? Because people often associate empathic behavior and empaths with being able to feel very deeply, yeah? And often taking on the feelings of others. But why would you take on the feelings of others unless you don't know what yours are, right? You don't know what you are, so you just take. I'll feel it. And that is because there's a blank there. There's like a space where you don't know what to feel yourself. So it's really, sometimes the connections and the experiences are subtle, and sometimes they're much more, trying to explain it brings a lot more clarity. Other examples are not feeling parts of the body at all, or feeling like they're very light. And this is really common, especially in lower parts of the body, because all of the energy is up in the head. And it becomes very difficult to feel lower, base, legs, pelvis, etc. So there's just often there's just no connection there. It's like, well, why would I even need to connect there? Why is that even relevant to me, right? Now, for some people, that's a very real question, because I remember my own journey, and if somebody had told me to connect to my pelvis, I would be like, why? I sit at a desk all day. I need to connect with my eyes and my brain. Why would I need to connect to my pelvis, right? And a lot of what has been taught and been brought into the world is structural. So it's okay, posture wise, it's for your posture that you need to be able to feel your base, etc., etc., because it's all become a very mechanical world. And that's not to say that that's not valid. Of course it's true. But when it comes to these deeper levels of working, explaining to somebody who's dissociated why they need a connection with the lower part of their body, right? This is what I spend a lot of my time doing. That's why I've decided to come in and just talk about it in this room. So dissociation can feel like blank emotionally, not know how to feel that blank, not know what I feel or how to feel it. Body feels kind of invisible, floating. Some parts of the body feel like they're not really there. Something's happening, but I have no idea what's happening there. And over a long period of time as well. Dissociation can also look like not recognizing your own voice, not recognizing your own image, not knowing who you are, not feeling like yourself, but not knowing what yourself feels like. So you're getting all your input about who you are from the outside world based on feedback, but your experience of interaction with the world is based on being dissociated from yourself. So the painful thing is the world just mirrors that back. And then you experience a whole load more confusion and probably pain and suffering, and then start to wonder why life is so hard. And then it becomes even harder to reconnect with yourself, right? Because everything's become externalized. Life is so hard. Life is not kind, yeah? Again, this is part of the dissociative character. It's like the splitting between, okay, life is like that and I am like that. I'm here somewhere and life does what it wants to me, right? Rather than I am crafting and creating my own experience of life. Yeah, that comes from a place of empowerment. Another characteristic of dissociation is constantly replying and to self-inquiry with I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And even when you're invited into exploring the I don't know, it's I don't know, don't know. Now, those of you that work with clients, if you're doing trauma work, it's really important to have the dialogical skills to support the trauma release at depth, right? Otherwise, you're just doing mechanical work. And that means being able to feel how connected and embodied a client is, yeah? This is why I did the grounding course first, because it is so fundamental to recognizing where the client is in their own being, in their own field, and in their own body, yeah? There's too many practitioners that are doing structural work and pretending that they're doing trauma work, and the person is not even in their body. So you don't even recognize what are you doing if they're not in their body, quite frankly. You're doing surface level work that tinkers around with a field, right? The first step is to get them to understand that they're not in their body. And this is the work of healing dissociation. Most of the time, a client will not, my clients don't write to me and say on the form, I'm dissociated and I'm really ready and looking to heal it. No, they don't. They say all sorts of other things, but they're not aware of their level of dissociation. That's the whole point, right? If you as a therapist are doing work and you have not assessed the degree and extent of a client's embodiment, and if you do not know why they are not in their bodies, what are you doing? That's my question. Because it's not safe for you and it's not safe for the client. So they're getting some sort of feedback on a system that they're not even in. They don't even live in it, right? Safety, for them to be able to function on their own without a therapist in their life, requires building a place that they can call home within their own body. And this is why it's really important. So the first thing I do is assess. The fundamental assessment is, okay, are they in their body? It's the first question that I ask. And if they're not, do they know they're not? And if they don't know they're not, are they willing to be shown that they're not? This will tell you about who they are and what they need. Recognizing, first of all, that you are dissociated is really fundamental, right? You can do anything. You can go and see the best healers. You can take all the plant medicine. You can microdose every substance on this planet. If you are not in your body, nothing is going to get you in your body if you don't know that you're not in it, right? Or if you're very dissociated from the waist down. And that's where you get people that say, I've tried everything and it didn't work. You know? Especially when it comes to complementary health approaches, because practitioners not working from this paradigm. They're not grounded themselves. So they're tinkering around doing treatments, and the client eventually is like, well, yeah, I got a little bit of resolution. Yeah, I felt a little bit better, but either because they didn't continue and do the work they needed to do and go to those deep trauma levels, or they were not really fully in their body when the work was taking place. Yeah, so they get relief, but they don't get deep resolution, and there's not a consciousness shift. And if there's not a consciousness shift, then they will experience life and illness at the same level of consciousness. Why? Because consciousness is a frequency of embodied light. And if they have not shifted fundamentally their level of embodiment, they will not be able to shift their level of embodied light and experience higher levels of frequency. Therefore, they will not feel like a completely different person. They're just there in the same place, getting relief and management rather than fundamental identity shift and resolution, radical inner transformation. Yeah. So this is really important to recognize. Some other signs of being dissociated, apart from not recognizing the voice, feeling like the voice is someone else's, is really that lower body connection. So feeling very light from the lower body, feeling feet fuzzy or feet feel tingly, you don't know where the feet meet the ground. You don't even know if they meet the ground. You don't even know why the feet need to meet the ground. This is very common, yeah. Difficulty breathing is another one. That's another sign. So if you're finding that throughout the day, you're experiencing real difficulty breathing, where the breath is becoming very shallow, of course it could be other reasons, but a lot of the time it's because there is a very deep level of dissociation, right? So I hope this is helping to show what dissociation can actually look like, yeah? When it comes to psychological symptoms, it's also a feeling of being not really present with the current reality. So you kind of always feel like you're somewhere else. You kind of always feel like a bit of a ghost. Okay, I can see what's happening around, but I don't really connect with it in some way. Everybody else seems to connect with it, but I'm not really, maybe there's something different about me, right? Maybe I need to do more to fit in. And this can often be, this is often part of the journey of deeper embodiment, is when people start to feel like that and then start to ask themselves, oh, why do I feel different? Why do I feel like a bit of a ghost or a little bit airy in my own present moment? Another thing is difficulty to be in the present moment, because present moment demands embodiment. And if you're not willing to be in the body because it's too difficult to be in the body, then present moment awareness becomes very difficult or impossible to access. Yeah? Present moment awareness is where healing and resolution takes place. So if you are finding yourself always talking about the past, your life is being led by belief systems that were bred and sustained in the past that are finding their way into your current language, into your current mindset, into the way your mind thinks and the language it uses. If it is literally working in the past, but trying to interact with the present, that's another sign of dissociation. And that's because you're still trying to get resolution for the mindset and for the life experiences that have happened in the past, but they're all being brought into the present, because the present moment can't be fully lived until the past is understood and brought into the light and the wisdom of trauma is integrated. So these are some signs of dissociation. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. I can see questions today. Welcome Seta, welcome Saffron, welcome Lucy. Thank you for joining me here this morning for quite a intense topic this morning on dissociation. So what we've talked about so far are the signs, physical, emotional, mental, and some of the energetic signs. So the energetic sign of a client that is dissociated, or you being dissociated, is hovering above your body. That's a really key sign, right? So you recognize that there's a body there, but you're kind of experiencing yourself from a height. It's usually from a height. It can be from the side, but it's not often. It's usually from a height. So you're seeing yourself as a body there, and you're up somewhere, which is a really interesting, often a nighttime experience that people have. It's often an experience that is triggered during sexual activity. Is that, okay, I can see my body's there having an experience, but my awareness is up here, yeah? Not down here in the womb. I don't have womb awareness in sexual activity. So this is really common sign of dissociation. Energetically, if you're working with somebody and you want to recognize, you want to check, you really are checking for the extent that they have a weight in their system. Is their system weighted? Or are they just completely scattered and fragmented up here and the body's here, and in between there are no channels of awareness? There's no sense of, that's me. There's no sense of where they are. And if people who are in that level of dissociation generally won't be able to communicate at depth about their somatic or emotional process, right? It will be, I don't know. Well, how can they know, right? So if they don't know, you need to show them that the reason they don't know is because they're not there in their landscape to know, right? Because the landscape is too traumatic and traumatized for them to be in and be close with, be intimate with, right? Dissociation is inherently about a journey of intimacy, rediscovering intimacy with yourself, rediscovering safety. So it's a calling, really. Dissociation is a calling to rediscover intimacy with your own body, with your own heart, with your own emotions, and to make it safe for you to be you. So it's critical, really, to feel safe enough to be you. And do you tell the client that they are dissociated? Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yeah. I'm completely transparent with my clients. My clients never have to wonder what I am thinking, wondering. If I recognize that the client is dissociated, and especially if it's very severe, I will immediately not just tell them, I will show them. I'm showing them through the work. I'm showing them through the inquiry. I'm showing them through the vibrational plane. I'm showing them through what they say they can feel and what they say they can't feel. I'm showing them themselves. Yeah. This is where they start to build an awareness, a self-awareness, an emotional awareness, a somatic understanding. I don't just say you're dissociated, right? I show them this is your current level of experience. And I invite them to really feel it. Like, how does it feel to them? Well, I don't feel anything. I don't feel my legs. I know I'm in pain, but I don't feel my pain. I don't feel my spine. I'm in my head right now. I don't know why I am the way I am, and I don't know what I feel, and I don't know. And my answer to life is I don't know. So I work from that point, right? Let me help you to see where you are right now. This is key. What can they do to become reassociated? So this is the healing journey. It's a journey of trauma healing. It's a journey of grounding, right? So this is why grounding is so key, and this is why people don't want to learn about grounding and don't want to ground, because it means you have to go through the trauma layers. So have a look at my course, which is available, How to Ground Your Client. The journey for somebody who is very dissociated has to be a journey of grounding. Why? Because it has to be a journey of making the body safe. Yeah? And fundamentally, you can't work with that person at a somatic level or an energetic level if they don't want to re-embody themselves slowly, and it won't happen overnight. Yeah? It happens through safety, and safety is clarity. So when you're clear in the space, that's the first level of safety, right? Because they don't feel safe within themselves, within their bodies. They don't feel safe in their energy field. They don't feel safe in the world. The first step is that they need to be able to feel safe with you. And they can only feel safe with you when you are clear and open about what you are doing and what you are holding, right? In the space. Then they go, oh, okay, somebody is at a deeper level of stillness and grounding than me. So I can trust this space. Yeah? So this is beyond the mind. This is not, the client's mind doesn't think that. Their vibrations go, oh, that person's space is more still. Yeah? It's a higher frequency because it's more still. So the lower density, the lower vibration and the bigger the density of in that person's field is almost attracted to the light, right? Because it's like, oh, there's something here. I can be here. And it can be easier. But you don't just want to be soothing your client every session, right? You want to be supporting them to know their own system. So the first step is you become the safe space, you show them the stillness, and then you show them themselves. Then you go through the grounding process. So you go through my course. You take my course, learn how to ground your client. It's the first. Most people will be doing this probably for the rest of their lives. Yeah? Grounding you do for the rest of your life, because there's no end to stillness. But at the same time, every time you ground deeper, you will be met with another trauma layer, and there is a very deep need for this work to be done. So the client starts to become more grounded. You guys who've worked with me will know, right? Some of you have come in from a place of real dissociation, like not being able to feel your womb, having no womb connection, having no lower body connection, having no legs. I do this every day. People who don't have legs, right? No arms. One arm is caught up somewhere else. I don't know. I haven't felt that arm for years, right? So the first step is when they see, oh, okay, I am dissociated. Then you need to support them to understand why. It's not just about grounding them in their bodies. You won't be able to do that without their self-awareness, right? You'll be able to do it to an extent, but without their self-awareness and trauma awareness and healing and heart involved, you can't ground somebody into stillness without them knowing themselves. Stillness and grounding is a journey of self-knowledge, embodied self-knowledge and embodied stillness. So, yeah, take my course. It's all explained in my course. And a client can, and my clients do, go from being completely dissociated and not really knowing what the hell is going wrong in their bodies, coming to see me with no idea, to then being shown, to then reconnecting and becoming re-embodied, which is such a beautiful journey for somebody to go on. And they say, like, wow, I actually feel safe in my body. I actually feel myself. I feel like what I imagined I might always one day be able to feel like. And then resilience builds, and they can resource themselves from themselves, right? To take a client who has never felt safe in their own body and to give them a lasting grounding in their body where they feel safe, that's permanent, not fleeting, that doesn't depend on them coming to see me, that is my work, yeah? And that is possible for every human being. It is possible. It takes people different lengths of time, but it's definitely possible. Oh, that's really, yeah. When my father died 10 years ago, I felt like a balloon that someone had let go of drifting through the sky. Wow. So he was really your anchor. Yeah, a balloon drifting through the sky. I feel that. That's deep. How did you come back then? How did you, so you recognized that you were a balloon, feeling that real floating, like, wow, here I am just floating around. How did you come back to your ground? The hard thing I find is to stay grounded no matter what life throws at you. It will come. It will come. Of course, you're going to be triggered, right? But life is throwing at you messages. Life is not, again, it comes down to that mindset. The mindset of a dissociated person is life is really hard. Life's really shit. Life gives me all of these obstacles and I have to like bat them away and I have to like defend myself and protect myself and there's too much movement and you know, life is just really hard, right? When you become empowered in your own body, you will start to recognize and realize that you are creating your own life, right? So what gets thrown at you is nothing but divine blessing. Not in an airy-fairy way, but actually because you feel it and you go, whoa, like, wow, that's just what I need. That's my medicine. I'll take that. That's my medicine. I take that. Medicine is painful, but it doesn't mean you have to suffer, yeah? So it's your mindset as well. When you see, if you see life as life throws me really hard stuff, you're not connecting with life. You're missing the whole point of life, yeah? Life doesn't throw you really, really hard stuff. Life serves you up your medicine so that you can become your greatest. That's a lived experience. You got to live that to believe it, yeah? You can't just listen to someone say that or try to convince yourself of it cerebrally. Interesting. I experimented that with my mum this morning, who called me and was in a state of hallucination and very convinced about it. So I did my best to ground her and let her see she's safe by herself. Yeah, that's really important. If people are experiencing that level of experience, that kind of very severe altered state, expanded state, and is feeling totally confusing or scary for them, fundamentally, that is an indication of needing to ground, right? So, oh, Seta, I missed your comment. There are people who can see their legs, but I know they're not grounded. What do you tell them in that situation to bring their attention to it? I spend nearly every day reconstructing and reconnecting people's legs. It's quite amazing to me how anybody even walks around without having legs. And the first step is understanding if a client can feel their legs. So you're saying a client can see their legs, but can they feel their legs, right? Where are their legs? Are the legs attached to the body? Believe it or not, often they're not. So feeling is different. So I will ask a client if they can feel their legs. And they sometimes say, yeah, I guess so. Well, what does I guess so mean, right? So if they're not specific, a client that's embodied in their legs will give you a rich feedback of what they're experiencing in their own legs, right? I guess so is neither here nor there. So I go deeper and I ask them, tell me what you're sensing moment to moment in your own legs. And that's when it breaks down, right? Because they don't have that. Then I know, okay, they're not there. So we have to rebuild the legs for them so they can have a moment to moment experience in depth of the leg. If you think about the legs, there's so much going on there, from a nervous system level to a circulation level, fascia, bones, feeling all of that at a physical level, let alone at an energetic level, is key. And there's so much to feel. So if it's, I guess so, that's basically the answer is no. So you need to read in between the lines. You need to be willing to go deeper. Yeah, it's not good enough to just go, oh, can you feel your legs? And the client goes, yeah, I guess so. And you go, oh, okay. What? Do you know what I mean? You never take them deeper in their embodiment. You also need to look out for the gap between what they say and where their body actually is. Yeah. A lot of therapists work based on what the client says rather than on the gap between what their body's doing and what they're saying. That's the harmonization opportunity. When you more deeply integrate that, that's the healing, because that's when they start to speak from an embodied place, right? If you only just listen to the words, you're basically just listening to the mind. You have to feel the body and support the body. Hi, Anna. That's something I remember from my father before they put him on antidepressants. He said he was failing to feel them. His legs, yeah. It's grounding, right? It's trauma. And antidepressants create another layer of dissociation because they numb sensation and they numb emotions. They suppress all of what needs to be healed. And furthermore, they create that feeling of being a floating zombie. Yeah? That's the shocker of it. People who need to heal and root and ground and become re-embodied in this medicalized system and paradigm are being taken further out of their bodies into a deeper level of dissociation where it becomes even harder to safely connect with sensation and with the body again, because now you're like, well, now it's a really big thing. If I connect, God knows what I'm going to find. Now it's overwhelming to even feel anything, right? I've had a client who came to me for anxiety. She was feeling very anxious. She was having panic attacks, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know why. I agreed to treat her. I was doing craniosacral work hands-on back then. And I agreed to treat her because she was really struggling to function with a level of panic. And I knew that in one session, I can get her into a completely different place, completely different level of embodiment, soothing, easing, self-awareness, so she can actually go on this journey of healing herself, right? So session 1, she comes in, was a completely different person by the time she left, right? Totally calm, connected with her body, starting to talk about her trauma, starting to recognize how things, particularly with her dad, had affected her. Great. The next week, she was due to have her next session. She wrote to me and said, I'm really excited about my next session. I'm feeling really hopeful about where this can take me and what I can heal. Great, see you next week. In between that time, she went to the doctor because she had already scheduled this appointment with the doctor because she had been having panic attacks, right? And what had the doctor done? Here you go, here's some antidepressants. So she takes them. She comes back in for the next session and she's not there. She's not in her body. She can't feel anything. I was in complete and utter bewilderment. Her system had so quickly adapted, gone. And she lay there like a stone statue, not processing anything, not feeling anything, not there, certainly not connecting with her body. And I showed it to her. And she said at the end of the session, that session felt so different to my first session with you. I couldn't feel anything. I could not feel a single thing happening. Whereas in the first session, I had so much releasing. She was crying, she was releasing, she was feeling lighter, she was getting self-insight, self-realization. This session, nothing. It was like working on a statue. And I said to her, now you know the effects that antidepressants are having on your body. In 1 week, that was the effect of the antidepressants. So if people are taking antidepressants on a long-term basis, imagine the level of dissociation. Yeah? It's a very, very deep and chronic poison that the system is feeding people because people don't know what to do. Yeah? And they're freaking out. Literally freaking out. And you know what? I'm not saying this from my high horse as a therapist, yeah? I was that person freaking out. I've been on my own journey of embodiment. That's why I know how to heal and how to teach, right? Because I've lived it. Literally lived it. I've been that person who literally was on the ceiling watching myself. And I thought that was normal. I've been that person who I used to look in the mirror and I couldn't recognize myself. I'd be like, who's she? Oh, her eyes are really intense. Oh, it's a bit scary. Oh, and I'd like back away from myself, be like, because I couldn't connect with the image. My voice, I didn't really know whose voice it was. I would hear a voice and it would be a voice. Is it me? Is it not me? I guess I'm speaking right now, so I guess it must be me. That's the level of dissociation. Couldn't feel anything, right? Walking around like spaced out. But I was high functioning, yeah? I was high functioning. I had a very successful career, climbing the career ladder, very popular, all the things, right? Had a gorgeous boyfriend, used to go on wonderful holidays. People would look at me and just think I was a normal person. I didn't know that there was something there. I didn't know that I was dissociated. I realised at that time when I looked in the mirror, and I was very much like, oh, who is she? By the time I asked myself, who is she, I recognised that there was a problem. Then I went to the doctor, right? As you do. I started to get panic attacks. I talked about this in my last video, and I went to the doctor, and the same thing. Okay, we'll write you off work for 2 weeks, and here's some antidepressants. Take them every day. Yeah? And that again was a wake-up call for me. I don't know what my problem is. And apparently, the solution is in the pills. That doesn't make any sense to me. The problem didn't come from the pills. I've not been taking pills. And that's where people get into a real mess when it comes to like opioid addictions, etc., which is a really big issue, particularly amongst women. There is more opioid addiction in women than men, right? Not only because women feel more intensely and feel pain more intensely, that's been proven neurologically, but because of all the additional things that come through childbirth, what that does to the pelvis, what that does to your whole body, right? The hormones, how that's affecting your pain and your body and your capacity to connect and feel, right? Support and the burden of care that's always falling on women, right? So the opioid issue that I'm talking about, why this is relevant, is because I was able to recognize my problem didn't lie in pills, so how can my solution lie in pills? This is not the solution. I need to find what my real problem is. I need to find out what my issues are. When you've been taking pills, say you had a surgery, a really major surgery, you start taking you're being given painkillers, or you can't sleep, so you're being given tablets to sleep. Now suddenly, you're sleeping, but you're really tired during the day. So now you get tablets to stay awake during the day. If you do this for many years, you start to associate the pills with the problem, right? Because you're dissociated from your life experiences, and from your body. It's no longer about you being the problem. Now the pills are the problem. So now the pills are the solution, right? The pills are the problem, so the pills must be the solution. And this is what gets people into cycles of addiction when it comes to medication. Because they'll go back to the doctor and they'll get given something else to manage the side effects of something else, and the dosage will go up and up and up, and then the medication brands will change. Oh, try this brand. Same with contraceptives. Same thing. Same with painkillers. Same with antidepressants. So if you go down that road, you're becoming more and more dissociated from yourself, because you're becoming more and more distant and disconnected from the root causes of your symptoms. Yeah? The root causes of your symptoms inherently lie in trauma, including if it's surgical trauma. So until you're addressing those, you really cannot rely on medication to make you fundamentally heal. It won't. You're basically, every time you take that pill, you're basically getting further and further away from yourself. Yeah? You're saying, I can't go there. So don't be under any illusions, yeah, that you don't have deep healing work to do if you're taking medication to avoid yourself. Yeah? And you can heal. There's plenty of people that go, you know what? This is not getting me anywhere. I have to make some real fundamental changes now. to my life and to my heart and to my healing and to my body, and I'm going to heal the root cause so I don't have to take anything. People are healing from all levels, right? From serious medical crises, they're healing naturally. It's up to you. The choice is really yours. Do you want to reconnect with yourself? As you say, even when it's painful, yeah? Even when it's painful to sit there with yourself, is it more painful than being completely disconnected? The trauma's still there. You still feel it. But now you just feel numb to it, which means you can't feel the joy of life anymore. And that's also quite painful. When you see people around and you're like, oh, okay, they seem really happy and joyful. I don't really feel any joy of life. I've been there. It's a really painful place. To feel like a ghost and then to not know what joy feels like. And to just wonder, it's as a concept, joy, oh, could be a concept for all you know, right? Because you don't have joy inside. You have pain, suffering. Yeah? This can be healed. If I can heal from that place of complete dissociation, right, and now be in the depths of groundedness, you can too. There is nothing, I was not born with this inherent knowledge or this is life experience, yeah? Anybody can do this. Anybody can heal. There's nobody who's off limits, right? The only thing that's off limits is when you refuse to deeply see your trauma and what it actually is. And you go, oh, okay, like, I'll play around in it. I'll just have a look at the tip. But you know what? I won't actually go deeply into it. I won't really go there. I'll go there with my mind. Maybe I'll go there with a few body sensations. My heart, yeah, I might feel a little bit, an extent of it, but not really deeply, yeah? Until you go to that place, that's when your trauma becomes soul insight. You go, wow, now I know why I did that. Now I know why I created that. Until you know what your own creation is, you can't recreate. If you want to be stuck in that place where you're like, okay, well, life's been shit to me, and I'm a victim, and I've had loads of traumatic experiences that have happened to me, and you don't actually recognize what you've created yourself to learn about yourself, you cannot embody your power. Simple. You will always be there on that trauma cycle going, yeah, I'm just still doing trauma healing. I'm still doing trauma healing, which is fine. But at some point, you will need to drop in and go, okay, you will be shown as well how you've created what you've created in order to become your true potential. That's called understanding the purpose of your pain, and that's a journey. Understanding the purpose of your pain means you bow down to it. And you never have fear again that there's going to be pain. You also don't suffer anymore because you've integrated soul level insight about what you've created and why. So you're like, wow, something that you felt was horrific, yeah, now becomes the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to you. I'm going to be real about my journey. I used to think that some of the things that I'd been through were absolutely horrific and were completely like black and white trauma events. And through plant medicine work, I saw what I needed to see, which is what I had created in order to learn about myself. Suddenly, I found myself, those experiences which I'd cried about, kicked and screamed about, and been horrified by, suddenly I was like, wow, I did that. I did that to learn about myself. I did that to wake myself up. Wow, I must really love myself. I created that whole situation to wake myself up. Wow, the love. And I felt completely overwhelmed and overtaken with my level of self-love. Even though I had created big traumas for myself, yeah? That's called integrating the purpose of pain and soul level insight. Until you get to that point, you'll always be a victim. That's the truth. Which is fine. Sometimes you need to be a victim for a period of time in order to actually heal the victim. If some people go through life and they're like, stone walls. Oh no, nothing's ever happened to me. Oh no, no trauma. Never been a victim. Oh no, everything's fine. Everything's great. Complete denial, right? You do need to be a victim for a good period of time. And trust me, I was a victim for a good period of time. Major. And I reveled in it. And I knew I was reveling in it. Because I needed to get my needs met, yeah? I needed to get certain needs met, so I needed to be in that place. and I could feel myself getting my needs met. So I was like, great, I'm getting my needs met. And then I got bored of that, and I was like, okay, now I recognise I've done what I've needed to do here. It's time to go somewhere else. I don't know where I'm going, but I get it. I get why I've been here, and I get why I stayed here for so long. Yeah. But the point I'm making is healing is a journey. You don't stay there forever. You won't stay there forever if you continue healing. It's people that don't continue, right? They drop out of therapy. Oh no, got all the reasons why life and other things are more important than healing themselves. So they don't recognise that their life is themselves. Yeah. That's what the weird thing is. It's like when I started on the self-healing path, I dropped everything else. Nothing was more important than me. Nothing. So I never said, oh no, I'm not going to pay for that. Oh, I can't afford that for my own healing. Oh no, I need to go. I need to my work is more important than that. Because I was like, whoa, my mental health is the most important thing. My physical body, my level of connection with my own body, my safety is the most important thing in my life. Okay, right. I had to take myself off to a talking therapist, which I really recommend for people who are at the beginning stages of the journey. Go and see a talking therapist. Seriously. Get to know your trauma narrative. Don't pretend it's not there. Playing around in like cacao ceremonies and like, at the end of the day, deal with your trauma. Deal with your trauma. Recognize it first of all. Recognize the journey. It's the journey home. Yeah? Understand if you're dissociated. Look at all these symptoms. Read about dissociation. Start to figure out. But don't read about it and go, oh, well, that's me now. I'm a prisoner. I'm dissociated. No. You are on your way back home. You're on your way back into your body. And you will come back to your body. You will, because it's home. And everything in the body is just your path of enlightenment, really. It's a path of illumination. Everything that's in your body, including the pain. So you had a client too. I'm just reading some of the comments. You on Prozac for 3 years, total disembodiment and excruciating without clearly feeling it. Whew, I just got shivers in the left side of my brain after reading that. That's hectic. Prozac for 3 years, yeah? Yeah. You don't know what you're feeling if you're not feeling it, right? But you just know that what you're feeling is not comfortable. I'm a health visitor, so my mums are put on antidepressants, and I see mums that are put on antidepressants, and it's so scary. They just need support at a heart level. That is so scary. And yeah, I totally hear that. Support. You know, I don't think anyone knows what it must be like to I certainly don't. What it must be like to take your body on that journey and your heart on that journey of having a child and then feeling really unsupported. Of course, it's going to put you in a place of, there's already like inherently in the childbirth experience, there's always a degree of dissociation, right? Because it's such a big, overwhelming experience. It's very easy to be flying out of the body because it's inherently an expansion, right? Energetically. And it's supposed to be, but if you don't know where your body is, then you're expanding out, and it's really difficult to know where you begin and end. Now, women who've been on that journey really do need support. Where are they getting their support from? In terms of spiritual and energetic support and emotional support. You know, to talk about those experiences. So if you have any links, post them in this video, so that in case anyone's going through that experience, they want to connect with other women who are there, or other birth parents, as we're not now supposed to say women, we're supposed to say birth parents. We're not supposed to say mums. So people can reconnect with other birth parents. Post the comments in the chat. Links in the chat, useful links. What are my thoughts on taking low dose of beta blockers to help to take the body away from the adrenaline rush? Again, it's like, why don't you just go and have a cocktail in a bar and see if that takes your mind off life? Yeah, it might work for like a few hours or like a couple of weeks, but you have to live with yourself and your lifestyle. So inherently, trauma work and healing work requires lifestyle change. It does. You have to be willing to recognize what is making you sick. Situations that are making you sick. if you don't want to change those, it becomes very difficult to actually get lasting fundamental change. I don't live the same as I lived 6 years ago, right? Everything is completely different. And you have to be willing to change your lifestyle when you learn what parts of your lifestyle are making you ill. And it is often lifestyle: food, diet, movement. Diet, movement, and environment. Yeah? So you can do all the healing work, but if you still stay, for example, in a relationship that's very dangerous, toxic, damaging, disconnected, and you're not healing it, but you stay in it, you can spend as much as you want healing. You can spend as much time as you want reading about healing, blah, blah, blah. What's the point? Your environment is the same. Same with anything, really. If you're working in a really chronically dysfunctional job and really stressful job, and you want to do all the healing work, but you don't want to change your lifestyle, it's temporary. That's things like this are. Your body needs a break from adrenaline rush. What are you going to do differently in that meantime? If you're like, shit, right? I need to be able to function to get through XYZ, because it's like otherwise my entire life is going to implode, and I know that this is temporary, and I'm willing to make some fundamental lifestyle changes after this, I've got through this period, because sometimes life does give you big stuff like that, and you're on that level of consciousness to go, okay, I actually just do need to get through this, right? That is a level of consciousness. Someone who is deeply conscious will say, this is what I'm creating, and they'll know how to connect with the medicine of that situation, and they'll be integrating the medicine, not the pain. If you're only integrating the pain, that's where you are, then you're going to do what you need to do in order to get respite so you can function. But if you think about it, that's a very base level of getting your needs met. Basic functioning, taking a break from life, stress management, right? This is like low level. If you think about the pyramid of needs and where that lies, it's very low level, which is fine. But then recognizing that that's not the entirety of life, that there's way more for you. Recognize that. It feels so empowering when you come back to your body after dissociation. It's like seeing things for the first time. That's so true, isn't it? It's so empowering. You're like, wow, give me more of this. I never want to leave again. You start to really love yourself. You start to really want to go deeper within yourself and discover more of yourself, and you become your own best friend. I used to be my own worst enemy, and I knew it. I was like, blimey. The thoughts that go through my head, it's like being my own worst enemy. And then I re-embodied through the journey of healing. Not like that. Not an overnight spiritual awakening. Step by step by step. And then I was like, wow, I am my own best friend. I'm enchanted by myself. I enjoy my own thoughts and body. And there's more for me here to discover. So I kept going. Keep going. There's no end to embodiment. There's more that you can embody, right? You just keep more deeply embodying the miracle of life. Then you start to feel even deeper levels of joy and bliss. Then what does life? Life doesn't throw at you big conundrums, big inflections, big lessons. It doesn't. It throws you deeper attunement, gifts, things that you can unwrap, like gifts of joy that you can unwrap. You still have to do the unwrapping. Reading the comments. I had my son at home without any drugs. You had your son at home without any drugs. Wow, brave. Amazing. Didn't have gas and air. I went into another dimension in the birthing stage. The birthing stage is another dimension. You are taken into another dimension. It's not necessarily just an earthly experience. It's a spiritual experience. It's amazing if you allow yourself to have that spiritual expansion and ecstatic expansion, which I've only got close to after rebirthing like 70 people at one time. And then I could feel it as like what the experience of birth was like, because it was such a fine line between imploding and going mad and needing to do something and trusting and letting go and realizing that it's all actually taken care of and this expansion is happening and you're the vessel, not the mechanic. But that gave me very deep reverence for birth and for supporting rebirthings and rebirthing through womb, because it is an altered state. It's very deep. It's not really a place where words can go, you know. I'm struggling with vaccine conversations now. Pressure to have one, as in healthcare, but doesn't sit right with me. It's a hot potato. Very hot potato. What doesn't sit right with you, you've got to listen to your body. You've got to listen to your body. The people that are not listening to their bodies will take anything that they're fed. That's the truth. Because you're not listening to your body. Someone else is telling you, this is what I was explaining to my parents. The point at which you have accepted that somebody else on this planet knows more about your body than you and can give you medicine for your body, that's when you've really given up your sovereignty. That's why when I work with my clients, it is so important for me to show them, for it to become their level of awareness, right? It has to be their level of awareness. Why? Because it has to be their journey and their level of empowerment. They have to see it. Not me. I can see everything. What's the point if they can't see it or they don't want to see it? Yeah? That's the point. It's their gift. It's their power. And by the time you have accepted and rolled over and said, okay, well, you know best, where's your bloody body connection? Where's your innate wisdom? Where are you in that story? You've checked out. I literally had this conversation with my parents. You have checked out of your own body wisdom and your own innate wisdom. That's what's sad. And you're basically giving up your sovereignty. And you can read my blog post on spiritual sovereignty. Most people have not experienced this level of life, right? Because they will not ground deep enough to find what sovereignty is at a vibrational level, what sovereignty demands, right? Spiritual sovereignty is a journey through the depths of grounding into total excruciation, through that layer, into elation, through the layers of creation, into what I can only describe as an indescribable level of self-accountability, where everything is what you are. You choose. If you know what that feels at a vibrational level, to be in that choice point for a continued amount of time, your sovereignty will mean more to you than anything on this entire planet. Anything. And everything. Sovereignty never ends. The journey of spiritual sovereignty at that vibrational level never ends, because all you're doing is finding deeper sovereignty, deeper self-sovereignty. It's a wordless place. Wow, support. I wasn't sure if it was a natural way of dealing with pain. I was going through a tunnel. It was pretty amazing. You were going through a tunnel during your birth process. Wow. You felt a lack of support. Well, you know what? I'm really glad that you've found this group. I actually feel you found this group for a reason. So, and you know, just feel comfortable here, because yeah, we do go through, I went through a really deep period of being very convinced that there was no support for me. And then I felt very really grieving about it. Like I was grieving about it. And then I started to feel like, oh, okay, I had grieved about it for a very long time. And then I started to feel like, oh, okay, there actually is support. I'm the support. And then I became my own support. And I continued that track for a really long time. And I felt, wow, okay, it's getting me to a certain level. It's getting me to a certain place. I'm feeling supported. I'm doing my own thing. I'm supporting myself. And then I got really tired, really exhausted, and felt really sad. It was like, wow, like, look how much I'm supporting myself, but I'm the only one supporting me. And that was my, so I was in a bit of an inner battle. And then I started to recognize that actually, I can't stay here in this notion, in this landscape of I support me, end of story. Because I'm only able to get to a certain depth with that. So I need to know that I'm supported. So then I started to look for support elsewhere, like in, maybe there's support in vibrational planes, maybe there's support in spiritual worlds, maybe there's support elsewhere, maybe my guides are supporting me. And I'll be honest with you, I never really connected with that, me personally. I just didn't. I just kept being brought back to myself and being told to look at myself, look at yourself, look at yourself. And I'm like, bloody hell, been looking at myself. I'm looking. Do I go back into my solo support mode? What do I do here? And I was shown you're always on a journey of understanding how to receive yourself, right? So that's what support is, receiving yourself. So then I took myself into a different dimension where I was as I worked through this, I started to feel this differently. That's what I mean by taking myself to a different dimension. I started to feel this differently within myself. And I started to feel like there's a me on the earthly plane, and there's a me. This is making like literally no sense. There's a me, and then there's a me. And the me has certain needs for support and awareness. And then there's a me that is like totally not what I appear and what I look like. Like there's a me that is just formless, divine, right? Genderless, formless, divine. And that's a level of knowing that support, the word support doesn't even come into, right? That it's not a vocabulary or a word or a need that actually vibrates in that person, in that space. And the more I integrate them, the more I live from that place of, I don't know what I am, right? I don't have a need to be anything. That's like a really good feeling. That's all I can say. And then all these things about like, oh, who's supporting me? That doesn't really come up, you know? It's just like, well, it's like the river doesn't ask who's supporting me. Is the riverbed supporting me? The river just flows, right? The river's just flowing. It doesn't stop to ask, is the riverbed there? Riverbed, are you supporting me? It doesn't know. It doesn't know it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't know. So what I'm getting into now is not knowing of my own flow means that there is nowhere to get hung up on. There's nowhere to put my coat and go, oh, well, am I actually really being supported? That's been my journey of working with support, and it's been really deep, as you can probably tell. Yeah, isn't it amazing? The whole tribe looks after the child, the mother and the child. Because they've got a different spiritual, different cosmologies, and ancient cosmologies have got a spiritual level of, they're living life on a spiritual level, not on a human level. So it's like, they're living through the vibrational planes, vibrational realities, because they see it, they feel it. They're working at that level. And I think a lot of the time, anthropologists have taken certain ways of life, certain paradigms and ways of living from more ancient and tribal societies and structures, and have tried to understand it through a non-vibrational lens. And actually what's happened is they're fundamentally misinterpreting the actual essence of what is happening in that activity, right? It's like looking at one of my distance healing sessions live and going, oh, she's doing a guided meditation. She's talking, and the other person is making something. Like, it's because you're not feeling the vibrational work taking place, you can only interpret it at a certain level. And that's what's happened with all of these, including plant medicines, and including shamanic work. It's all been taken, deconstructed with the mind, served up for a superficial paradigm, and there's so many layers behind and beneath. Anyway, yay! I realise now that I'm getting further in touch with myself. I don't have to battle for support and surrender, and I surrender to myself. That's beautiful. Yeah, you don't have to battle for support, absolutely. Because you know what? You battle for support, you realise you don't get any. Or the support you do get is like, it's just not fulfilling, you know? So this is a really big one, like going on the journey of support and what that means for you, and how to support yourself at a deeper level in all aspects, and how to always feel supported, and then how to come into a place where support is not even a requirement because you're so beyond that. That's real. That's a real journey. That's when you really come into being able to support others. And to cream my hands. Yeah, good stuff. Right, so I'm going to crack on with my day. I'm filming another course now. If you're watching this on the replay, let us know what you're tuning into and what your thoughts are about all these topics that we've talked about. Dissociation, that's been a really big one. What other signs do you notice of dissociation? I'm sure I haven't covered all of them. And where are you in your journey of embodiment? What's difficult for you that's a really interesting one. What are you coming up against when it comes to challenges in your journey of deeper embodiment? Particularly if it's in a trauma context and you've been dissociated. Like, what are the things that you're really like, bloody hell, I can't break through this. This is a really, really tough one. And yeah, what's your journey of support like? What's your journey with that word? What does that word mean? How does it move within you? Good stuff. All right, wombies. So just to let you know finally that the next womb room will open in September, and it will be a very, very intense journey, which I am sure that some of you are ready for. And for those of you that are not sure whether you're ready, take your time to really drop in, because it's a very, very deep 10 days, and it's a journey that works at very deep levels. You will be changed. If you don't want to be changed, it's not a good place to arrive in, right? Your life will change. I get emails from people who have left womb room and are like a few weeks later, they're like, my entire life like feels like a miracle. Like, everything's changing, everything's shifting. Things in my family, things in my work, things in my everything. I feel like I'm a different person now. This is rebirthing work, right? You have to come ready to put your bags down, ready to not be yourself anymore. And if you hold on really tight to your bags and you're like, no, I only want to just like change my hair color, I don't actually want to fundamentally rebirth my entire life, then this is not the container, because it moves very fast. It's 10 days, but the time flies like that. And there's a certain pace, right? Sometimes people come into womb room and they're like, bloody hell, like, where's all of this coming from? Like, how are people doing this? Like, how are we talking about this already? And it's like, no, we're talking about it already because everyone's ready, yeah? And I'm not going to slow anything down, and I'm not going to lower the frequency if you're not ready to rebirth, right? Because people are ready for fundamentally to change their life, yeah? And this is what happens in womb room. It's a rebirthing. It's a 10-day rebirthing. Let's be really clear about that, yeah? Rebirthing occurs on many different levels. You never stop rebirthing yourself. But when you rebirth, you have to accept that the integration period after that is going to be full of change, right? If you want to go back to who you are, don't come for rebirthing, yeah? So let me be clear about that. If you want to go back to who you were, do not come into womb room, because it's going to be another level in September. I literally can't wait. Womb room is some of my most sacred work. I'm going to be really focusing on the wounded feminine, but not to revel in the trauma, not to dance around in the mud, right? Where I'm going to show you guys the soul level. I'm going to show you your own creation, right? You've created a whole load of pain for yourself. Are you willing to see why? If this question doesn't land and terrifies you already, it means you need to do more work on your trauma narrative. You need to stay longer in that place of allowing yourself to be a victim, so that you can allowing your emotions to come forth and come out. If you've already done that and you're like, yeah, I'm ready, like I saw all the shit I've done, I've seen it, now I'm ready to never do that to myself again. If you're there, then the September womb room is for you, because we're going to be working at that level. And yeah, it's going to be triggering as fuck, for sure, because there's going to be spaces where you don't want to see that you created that. You want to believe somebody did that to you. You need to believe that. Yeah? You can't take your part in the co-creation. So this is really about people who want to become fundamentally creators of their own life architecture. And that needs, if you want to become a creator, you need to understand and allow yourself to accept what you have created. You don't only create the good stuff, right? And anything bad that happens to you that's painful, oh, well, that was someone else. That's absolute bullshit, yeah? And this is what's missing, fundamentally missing, from trauma work. This is shadow work, yeah? So I'm bringing shadow work into womb room for September. It's going to be wild. It's going to be deep. There will be nowhere to hide. And you will rise in a very real, embodied way within yourself as a creator. Not just, oh, I'm a divine feminine creator, but I have no connection with my shadow. I have not recognized and accepted any type of self-responsibility for my past. That's not creator. That's bullshit, quite frankly. That's the wounded, toxic feminine that wants to be something she's not, right? And we don't play with those games here. We don't roll with that. This is a real shadow depth work. You have to see what you've done, and you have to see why you've done it. And if you're not ready to see that, we do more trauma work. We do more trauma healing. Until you come into that beautiful space, and you will get there. It's a freaking phenomenal space where you go, wow. I've had to sit there in those spaces and go, wow, I was so damn cruel to myself because I had to wake myself up like that. I had to, otherwise I would never have woken up. I did that to myself. I must have been a bloody genius because I knew exactly what I needed, and that is including experiences which are traumatic. Bomb drop. Great, wonderful. Can't wait, more. Who's saying that? Imi. It's definitely a life-changing experience. Yes, it is, isn't it, Seta? Womb Room has changed many people's lives who are ready to change their lives. Exactly. Love it. You know what? When your client becomes the master, that's the best feeling in the world. I just want to say that to my clients in here who are becoming the masters of themselves. Yeah? That's when I know my work is done. And I'm like, hopefully I never have to see you as my client ever again. Right? That's my dream. Let me just be really clear about that. That's why I don't do years and years and years and years and years worth of open-ended therapy, right? Because my goal is not to keep you attached to me, yeah? My goal is to show you yourself. For you to be self-sufficient and empowered and get rid of me ASAP, yeah? Get rid of me. So it's 6 sessions, yeah? Anyway, I'm booked now until end of May. So if you want to work with me one-to-one and you're feeling it, you're feeling the call, you're ready to dive in the deep, you're ready to find all the places where you're hiding from yourself and your power,
come to me and I'll show you. And we do it through the body, not through the mind. But we'll have to wait a little while because it's very busy at the moment. Anyways, my beautiful roomies, thank you for joining me on channel KIMIYA.